Writing Stories, Fairy Tales by Anita Ganeri. Writing a story. A story is a piece of fiction writing. It tells the reader about made-up people, places, and events. Anyone can write a story. What you need is a setting, some characters, and a plot. You can write different types of stories. There are mystery stories, funny stories, adventure stories, scary stories, animal stories, and many others. This book is about writing fairy tales. What is a fairy tale? A fairy tale is a fictional story. Many fairy tales have characters such as fairies, princesses, dragons, giants, and elves. Popular settings for fairy tales are castles and palaces, woods, or magical lands. How many fairy tale characters do you recognize? The plot of a fairy tale often tells of the struggle between two sides, such as good and evil, or rich and poor. A fairy tale usually has a happy ending. What is your favorite fairy tale? Getting ideas. Before you start writing, you need to get some ideas. Ideas may come from your imagination or from another fairy tale that you have read. You might start with an idea for an interesting character or an exciting twist to the plot. A good way to remember your ideas is to jot them down in a notebook. Keep it with you all the time. Then you can scribble down anything that comes into your head, even if it is just a few words. What's the plot? What happens in your fairy tale? This is called the plot. It needs a beginning, a middle, and an end. You can use a story mountain like the one below to help you plan your plot. Your story starts at one side of the mountain, goes up to the top, then goes down the other side. Beginning. Set the scene and introduce your main character. Middle. The main action happens. There may be a problem for one of your characters. Ending. The problem is solved and the story ends. A timeline is another good way to figure out a plot. Mark the story's main events along the timeline. Here is a timeline for the fairy tale told in this book. A princess forgets how to laugh. The king tries everything to cheer her up. A magician comes to the palace. He tickles the princess with a feather. She laughs. The magician is a prince in disguise. The princess and prince fall in love. The princess marries the prince. Once upon a time. The beginning of your story is very important. This is where you introduce your main character. It needs to grab your reader's attention so that they want to keep reading. Can you turn any of these ideas into story starters? A princess is put under a spell. A mermaid loses her magical shell. A giant falls down a bottomless well. A fairy tale. Once upon a time, there lived a princess. She was very pretty and very kind, but she was always sad. A wicked witch had put a spell on her. The spell made the princess forget how to laugh. Many fairy tales start with once upon a time. Can you think of a different beginning? Setting the scene. Setting the scene means deciding on the place and time in which your story is set. It tells your reader where and when the story happens. A glittering palace, like the one below, makes a great setting for a fairy tale. The princess lived in a glittering palace. The palace had dainty towers and turrets that soared into the sky. All around were pretty gardens filled with sweet-smelling flowers. It was the most beautiful place to live in the whole world. Can you think of any other settings for your fairy tale? Making up characters. Your story needs strong characters that your reader believes in and cares about. Think about what kind of people they are, what they look like, and how they are feeling. Jot down the details in fact files. Character fact file. Character, princess. Looks like, pretty, long dark hair. Sounds like, musical voice. Personality, kind, helpful. Likes, kittens, cupcakes, pink shoes. Dislikes, not being able to laugh. Character fact file. Character, wicked witch. Looks like, long pointed nose, stringy hair. Sounds like, mean, cackling voice. Personality, cruel, vain. Likes, toads, spells, herself. Dislikes, pretty princesses. The princess and the wicked witch are the main characters in our story. With her sparkling eyes and long dark hair, the princess was the prettiest girl in the kingdom. She was also the kindest. Everybody loved her. Everybody, that is, except the wicked witch. The witch was old and cruel, and she hated the princess for being so nice. Can you think up good names for the princess and the wicked witch? The middle. The middle of your story is where the main action happens. This is where something goes wrong for some of your characters, or they have to try to solve a tricky problem. Here are some problems that your fairy tale characters might face. The character is turned into a frog, gets lost in the woods, falls into a deep sleep, is tricked, falls under a spell. Can you think of any other problems? The wicked witch hated the princess so much that she put her under a spell. The spell could only be broken if someone made the princess laugh.
That'll show her,
The witch cackled.
she won't look so pretty if she's always sad. No one will want to marry her now.
What tricky problem does the princess have? Mind mapping. It can be hard to think what happens next in your story. If you get stuck, try doing some mind mapping to help you move the plot along. Write down one key word or thought. Then jot down any connected words or thoughts that come into your head. Don't spend too long on a mind map. A few minutes are enough. What might cheer up the princess? Putting on a funny show. Giving her a kitten. Tickling her with a feather. Making the witch disappear. Singing a silly song. Everyone tried to make the princess laugh. The king gave her a kitten, but that didn't work. The queen sang her a silly song, but that didn't work either. The princess's little sister put on a funny show, but nothing made the princess laugh. Use the ideas from your mind map to keep the plot flowing. Using speech. Try using dialogue in your story. Dialogue means the words that people say. Dialogue shows what your characters are thinking and feeling. It helps bring your story to life.
It's not working,
sighed the king.
We'll just have to try something else.
Put quotation marks around the words that are spoken.
It's not working,
sighed the king.
We'll just have to try something else.
But we've tried everything, said the queen sadly. What else can we do? The king put his head in his hands and thought hard.
I know,
he said.
I'll offer a reward to anyone who can make her laugh. That should do the trick.
Dialogue is also good to break up long chunks of text. Exciting writing. When you are describing your characters or setting, choose your words carefully. This will make your writing more exciting. You can add describing words called adjectives to explain what things are like, and adverbs to describe the way things are done. Slowly, he pulled a large purple feather from his sleeve. Slowly is an adverb. Large and purple are adjectives. One day, a magician arrived at the palace. He wore a dazzling coat of silver and gold. Slowly, he pulled a large purple feather from his sleeve. He tickled the princess gently under her chin. The princess's mouth twitched. Then she smiled. Then she laughed a long, tinkling laugh. How many adjectives and adverbs can you spot in the story? Fairy tale ending. You have reached the end of your story. This is the place where you need to tie up all the loose ends. The ending tells your reader what has happened to your characters and how they have solved any problems they had. They all lived happily ever after. Most fairy tales end happily, and the characters' wishes come true.